In a quiet town of Pennsylvania, the Dover and Birch families come together for a joyous Thanksgiving, celebrating holiday with laughter. However, the festive atmosphere takes a dark turn when they discover that their 6-year-old daughters, Anna Dover and Joy Birch, have disappeared after dinner. The two families join forces in a desperate search, but the only lead is an old and mysterious RV parked on their street. Detective Loki is assigned to the case and tracks the RV to a gas station near a forest. As the police approach, the driver suddenly accelerates and crashes into a tree. The man behind the wheel, identified as Alex Jones, is promptly taken into custody. At the police station, the case takes an unexpected twist when Detective Loki discovers that Alex has the IQ of a 10-year-old and rarely talks, adding complexity to the investigation. Despite his confusion during questioning, no forensic evidence is found in Alex's RV. Digging deeper into Alex's past, Detective Loki visits Holly Jones, Alex's aunt who raised him with her husband after his parents died when he was 6. The unexplained disappearance of Alex's uncle years ago adds another layer of mystery to the complex family history. Meanwhile, numerous volunteers search the woods for the missing girls. Detective Loki visits the Birch and Dover families, requesting photos of their daughters. Despite weak evidence against Alex, Keller remains convinced of his involvement. Detective Loki informs them that due to a lack of proof, Alex will be released in 2 days. The investigation takes an even darker turn when Detective Loki discovers a body in the local priest Patrick Dunn's basement. Father Dunn confesses to the murder, claiming the man had confessed to killing 16 children and expressed intentions to kill more in his war on God. However, the body's identity remains a puzzle. As the search continues, Keller receives the distressing news about Alex's imminent release. Convinced of Alex's guilt, Keller attacks him outside the police station. Alex whispers to him, "They didn't cry until I left them." Keller takes this as proof that Alex took the girls. Frustrated by the legal constraints, Keller decides to take matters into his own hands. That night, he abducts Alex at gunpoint. The next day, Keller brings Franklin to his father's abandoned house, where Alex is held captive. Franklin disagrees with Keller's brutal methods. However, despite his fear and moral objections, they attempt to force information from Alex through relentless violence, but Alex remains silent. Keller continues to beat Alex for days, furious that Alex doesn't say a word about what he did with the girls. The tension escalates as Keller's desperation reaches distressing levels and the line between justice and vengeance become blurred. Keller binds Alex in the shower, encloses him in darkness using plywood, allowing only a small PVC tube to communicate. Alex endures as Keller adjusts the temperature, making the water either scalding hot or freezing cold, intensifying the psychological and physical torment. On the other hand, Detective Loki looks into unsolved cases of missing children, hoping to find more valuable leads. He comes across one involving Barry Milland, who vanished 26 years ago. At a candlelight vigil for the girls, Detective Loki spots a suspicious hooded man who quickly flees when Loki approaches and manages to evade capture. Later that night, the man breaks into both families' houses. Alarmed by the intrusion, Grace immediately calls Detective Loki. As Loki searches the house, his attention is drawn to several bags of lye in Keller's basement, and knowing of Keller's absence at home, Loki's suspicion intensifies. In the pouring rain, Detective Loki follows Keller. Sensing the situation, Keller changes his direction towards the building where Alex is captive, choosing instead to enter the liquor store. Intrigued by Keller's actions, Loki's suspicion deepens. As Keller continues his brutal interrogation, Detective Loki breaks into the building only to find Keller pretending to sleep on the floor. Keller fabricates a story about stopping over in the building so he can drink to ease his pain without his wife knowing. Before Loki can check the entire building, he receives a phone call and leaves quickly. A store associate identifies the hooded man as Bob Taylor based on a composite sketch, and notifies Loki after witnessing him purchase children's clothing. Later, Taylor is apprehended at his house, where the walls are covered with maze drawings. Loki finds locked containers filled with maze books, live snakes, and children's clothing with blood, including items belonging to the missing girls. In the interrogation room, Taylor becomes fixated on drawing a maze. Tension escalates. Detective Loki loses control and begins assaulting Taylor during questioning. Officers rush in to intervene, but Taylor seizes the opportunity, manages to grab a gun, and takes his own life. Upon inspecting Taylor's house, the police concludes that he was a fantasist and not implicated in the disappearances. He stole the clothes from the girls' homes the other night and stained them with pig's blood to recreate abductions. Keller is in a state of deep despair, uncertain about the next steps. Suddenly he hears Alex utters incoherent words about the girls being in a maze. Desperate for answers, Keller goes to Holly's home, discovering that Alex's stuttering comes from a childhood incident with snakes her husband owned. She also reveals that she and her husband were once religious until their son died of cancer, and they adopted Alex as a way of coping. Detective Loki connects the maze pattern in Taylor's drawings to the maze necklace worn by the man Patrick Dunn killed in his basement. The intricate web of connections becomes clearer, yet the true extent of darkness remains elusive. Joy Birch is found drugged but alive, but Anna still remains missing. When Keller visits her in the hospital seeking information, her memories are in disarray. She tells Keller, "You were there." He realizes that Joy might have recognized his voice during his visit to Holly's house. Keller rushes out, with Detective Loki chasing behind. A bit later, Loki arrives at Keller's building, expecting to find him, but instead he finds Alex. Meanwhile, Keller goes to Holly's house to seek information from her, but she pulls a gun on him, forcing him to put on handcuffs and ingest the same liquid that was used to drug the girls. Holly refers to it as her husband's recipe. Holly reveals more about her sinister history and twisted motivations, admitting to abducting children with her husband as part of a war on God to avenge their son's death and transforming traumatized parents into demons. After her husband's mysterious disappearance, Holly is left to continue their dark mission as best she can. At gunpoint, she directs him to an old car parked outside. Holly shoots Keller in the leg and forces him to jump into a hidden pit in her yard, closing the lid behind him. With only a small flashlight, he finds his daughter's whistle in the darkness. The captain tells Detective Loki to go Holly's to inform her about finding Alex. While there, he stumbles upon an old photo of her husband wearing the maze necklace. Realizing Holly is the kidnapper, and the body in the priest's basement is her missing husband, Loki creeps towards a noise and catches Holly in the act of attempting to inject Anna. A barrage of gunfire ensues. Loki takes down Holly but sustains a head wound. Despite the injury, he manages to rescue Anna and rushes her to the hospital. The following morning, Loki reads a newspaper headline reporting that Alex's true identity as Barry Milland finally reunited with his family. Grace, grateful for Anna's safety, updates Loki on her daughter's well-being and mentions that Keller hasn't contacted her. Despite knowing that Keller will face arrest, she thinks him as a good man who did whatever it took to save his daughter. Detective Loki stands alone in the crime scene at Holly's house as the forensic investigators leave. The night remains mysterious. Suddenly, the sound of a whistle cuts through the darkness.
Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.